Oregon, and it rained a lot. And once chores were done, we had basically no television at that time, except for a little bit of golf and Wonderful World of Disney once a week, I think. But I first fell in love with Batgirl on the syndicated Batman television show. And it really struck a chord with me because I was the only, I was very isolated, and when I started school, I was the only person with red hair and fair skin. I got made fun of a lot, and I felt like a little freak, and the stories I was reading were, the redheads were always the ugly stepmother, the horrible, ugly neighbor girl or something. And when Batgirl was on the screen, and she could kick ass, and was tough, and beautiful, and smart, and all those things, I was like, wow, that was a revelation for me. And so I got into that, and then I went into a 7-Eleven one time and saw a Justice League comic. I thought, that was kind of interesting. And I picked it up in the middle of the story. I didn't really know what was going on, but it was my first experience with Wonder Woman in particular. And I read all the time. I mean, that's literally all I had to do. And so I loved it from like age 4, on. And I devoured the comic, and I realized that all the stories that I loved before had adventures thrust upon the female protagonist. They either went down a rabbit hole about taking in a twister up to Oz or something like that. And Wonder Woman was a character that created her own adventure. She fought to get off of her isolated island and get out into the world and do good. And she was a princess and gorgeous and all those things that I also love. And that really opened my mind up a lot, because I grew up in a family of mostly women, really strong women, and the whole Prince Charming thing just never connected with me. I just could not identify with those stories at all. And at that time, I was just like, wow, you really can go out and have your own adventures. You don't have to sit on this isolated farm and wait for them to happen. And so ever since then, it was just, I was all in from that point. I mean, I kind of went on in and out of comics, but those characters that went out and fought crime and protected the innocent and did all these things that I wished I could do really affected me strongly at a pretty young age.
I almost don't want to follow that. That's a fabulous story. And mine is almost slightly creepy. And we're going to skip part of it, but I mean, I'm going to tell you about the next door neighbor of mine. Well, my best friend lived next door to a guy who I think was a novelty salesman, so he used to give us Archie comics out of his basement. I have no idea. Nothing happened, I don't think. It's really creepy in retrospect. And it kind of got me hooked at an early age, but I guess the next real epiphany for me was blankets. I mean, I went through a boyfriend-driven X-Men phase for a while in high school, and I still love X-Men, but the real firework for me was when blankets came out, and the idea that you could tell a story like that with such beautiful attention to detail and texture within the artwork sort of drew me in completely again, and from that point it was almost like a rejuvenation of my love for comics. So I've always been an avid reader, but I think I went kind of whole hog indie for quite a while after Blankets came out, and I think it broadened the scope of the things I was reading, and I'm forever grateful for that.
Yeah, for me, I grew up with comics. I had brothers, I would read their comics, I would read Archie comics, of course, and Wonder Woman, the same sort of thing, just like that story. It's like, yay, she's a princess, but she's really awesome and kicks butt. So, and then later on with my own kids, I'm like, yeah, I want them to know this art form. I want them to realize that there are these stories here, and that it's a valid form. It's not something that's only for kids or only for boys, that anybody can read on. And then I like a lot of the indie stuff now. Archaea, that's not great stuff. I love Archaea stuff. Return of the Aftermath.
Beautiful.
But I like stories that I can share with my kids and that I can really show them.
I was wondering if you've seen any, I feel like in the media attention is shop, and I was wondering if that there might be some kind of impact on the industry. I'm wondering if you guys have seen if the industry and how the industry has responded to this and how you think it might help affect change in terms of women being able to go and doing women-centered planners being more common.
Well, I've been attending conventions pretty regularly for about the last 8 years, and so many barriers have been broken down in those last 8 years that, you know, change is here, change is still coming. A project like this is something that, like I said earlier, it's invaluable, and a lot of times not only are we fighting, I hate to say this, so I hope I don't offend anybody, but not only are we fighting against the industry and what the industry has experienced in the past and their expectations and girls don't read comics and all that kind of stuff, sometimes we're literally fighting ourselves. And what I mean by that is I had a woman come up to me after a panel and she was in tears, and she's middle-aged, and she said, you know, I used to draw all the time when I was little. I loved to draw. It was my favorite thing that I did. And I would draw on everything, and I asked my parents to get me some regular, nice art pads and pencils for my birthday. And our birthdays came around, and my brothers got them, and I didn't get them. And my brothers didn't even ask, but my mom told me that my job was to get married, raise a family, stay in the home, that this art was not for me, and she had boxes and boxes of art that she'd done in secret that her husband didn't even know existed. So sometimes we have those kinds of barriers we have to break too. So to have so many more examples of people, women who stepped out and decided they could do it or give it a try, helps break down that personal barrier as well. So it really isn't just the industry. The industry, I really believe, is always looking for new talent, and new talent that's going to sell, that's going to, you know, be marketable and all that. That isn't the problem, but we are fighting against some prejudices. But barriers are way down from what they were 8 years ago at conventions, at the companies, everything. And then to see that, you know, well, the company's not going to publish it. Let's just, you know, do it. You know, get the money ourselves and publish it. So it's definitely going to change it. I really think it already has, just by making awareness. There's that many female creators that want to do comics.
I know.